So it is my official pleasure really to be moderating this session and opening it today. In LUCI, we talk a lot about light festivals. Of course, we talk about urban lighting in general and creative lighting, but light festivals has been a very important part of our conversations and our research. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is very timely because we are all in these situations facing COVID, and light festivals are no exception. And so they've had to adapt, they've had to become original and innovative, and we're going to hear from 4 of those festivals today of how they're adapting to this strange new normal. Not just COVID, but other things. There's political changes, there's climate change that we heard a little bit about yesterday too. So how are these light festivals adapting? The long history of light festivals within LUCI goes way back, and actually in collaboration with the city of Lyon, we have been organizing the Lyon Light Festival Forum since 2012. So I know many of you here online have been here before in person, and we always enjoy those moments of not only sharing and exchanging during the sessions, but also the networking moments, and of course walking around in Lyon and seeing the beautiful lights. Within LUCI, we also have been asking a lot of questions about light festivals, and last year we published a magazine, our Cities and Lighting magazine. We focused on light festivals and especially on the emerging light festivals that are happening in the United States. So again, in the expo booth section, you can go see all about what we've written about and on that topic. And lastly, this year especially, we realized that over 30 of our members are involved with, organize, or host light festivals. And we found that it was very important, this topic was coming up over and over, of how festivals are going to adapt this year. So we put together a working group of some of our light festival members who in July came together online, of course, to talk about these challenges. And that's really what inspired today's session. We found that everyone was so inspired by each other about what can happen, what's possible, what are some ideas, what doesn't work, what does. And so we felt it would be great to share that with everyone here today. So please use the chat box to your right to ask any questions during the session. We'll catch them all and ask them to the speakers at the end. What's going to happen is I will introduce the speakers. They're each going to do a short presentation with an overview of the festival and what they've done this year. And then we'll have sort of a moderated discussion with all of them because I think a lot of ideas are going to bounce back off of each other. And we'll end with the question and answers with all of you. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Julien Pavillard to the stage from the Fête des Lumières, Lyon. Thank you everybody for being here.
And thank you, Jessica, for this introduction. That's right, that our main issue this year is how our light festival, La Fête des Lumières, can rebound with the current health crisis. Romain, who is one of the festival's project managers, will present you our approach and how we have tried to adapt the Fête des Lumières to changes during the year. But that's right that the Festival of Light, La Fête des Lumières, is a very complicated project because it's above all linked to the Lyon tradition of 8 December. For all the people of Lyon, it's the most important event of the year because even if it's above all a religious celebration for Catholic from all over the world, for us it's a very local event where every year children decorate glasses in order to put a candle on them and to put what we call in Lyon lumignon, so it's a little light, on the window sills. As tradition demands, and even if many fewer people still practice the installation of luminaires because family habits are changing and many companies have their offices in the downtown area, we put lights on our window sills every 8th of December. All the inhabitants of Lyon and the new inhabitants know it because apart from everyone talking about it, it's in the press article every year. This is especially true this year when a kind of parallel is drawn between the current pandemic and the fact that this tradition was born with the installation of a statue of the Virgin in 1852, because the Virgin would have protected Lyon from the plague. And then for the last 20 years, the Festival of Lights has also taken a very important place in the Lyon event agenda, but also in the French one. As much as the 8th of December belongs to all the people of Lyon, whether they are believers or not, La Fête des Lumières is completely managed by the city of Lyon. We have a fully dedicated team, but of course, a lot of departments work with us, whether is it for safety and prevention, but also for public lighting, communication, security, logistics, parks and gardens. The fact that we have this specialized team has allowed us to reorient the perimeter of the festival several times this year, but also its objectives for this year, and fortunately also, especially for our marble, for the next years. One of the challenges of this adaptation was the management of the crowd, of the pedestrian flows, because we generally get a lot of people at the festival. And the real issue was therefore to know how to manage the public when the number of people allowed in the public space was decreasing month by month. And then how to ensure satisfactory management of all our partners and sponsors who not only are affected by the economic crisis, but also no longer knew whether the festival would take place or not. The notion of solidarity, which is certainly the lowest common denominator of all festivals, is at the heart of our festival and our work because it gives it a clear meaning this year. I will let Romain give you more concrete details on the strategies we have had to build and apply to make this festival evolve since last March. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julien.
So about the question linked to the festival, one main thing was asking ourselves how to maintain the identity of the festival while not be able to do it. So as you know, after multiple attempts to go on, it was not possible to make it this year. However, it has been decided to keep the two strong symbols of its identity in order to keep the roots of the festival alive. The first symbol that concerns the tradition of Lumières, candles, as Julien told you. It's about the historical roots of the festival with candles on each window in the city. This is a tradition already alive and which we want to keep running this year more than ever. So the city is going to encourage every citizen to put Lumières on their window as an homage to the tradition, but also a giant fresco will be done today, broadcasted in the media and in the social networks to thank the health worker in France. And to finish, a massive digital candle sale has been taken in charge of by the festival and its partner to collect money for a non-profit organization. The second symbol, we propose to the public a light trace over the Ferey hill, that is the heart of the festival and of its roots, as you may know. And this project will be done tonight by Moment Factory. Instead of the full show they should have done, they will focus on a special image at the scale of the hill with projection and light scenography. And also, it's important to notice in a spirit of support and tradition, a lot of inhabitants initiatives are proposed, and one of them comes from the Church of Lyon, which will illuminate the inside of Basilique de Fourvière as a beating heart, in order people can sit from down in the riverside as a symbol of hope. So that's the main point about maintaining the identity of the festival. Maybe we have a lot of other things to say, but it should be maybe a question later with all the festival.
No, this gives us a great start to understand where The Lyon Light Festival Fête des Lumières has gone today, and so we're excited to see the fresco tonight and the Moment Factory display. And very interesting how, you know, there's still some things that are possible even if the whole festival is canceled. So it's great to see what is being thought of, and I'm sure that's inspiring to other festivals who are thinking of new ways. So thank you to the team from Fête des Lumières, and we will now move on a little bit north to Jyväskylä in Finland. Elisa Hillgen is here, and she is going to tell us a little bit about their festival and what they decided to do this year.
Yes, hello everybody first, and my name is Elisa Hillgen. I'm a lighting coordinator for city of Jyväskylä, which is located right in the center of Finland. Jyväskylä is quite a small city, well, 7th biggest in Finland, but in world scale we are very tiny. But we are very known for many things like architecture and nature around us, the lakes and saunas, and also winter sports like ski jumper, Olympic winner Matti Nykänen was from Jyväskylä, and few other things as well, like light. And we are here to talk about City of Light and our light festival. As you can see here, I always love to mention that all the cities in Finland are very beautiful in summer, and this is the type of images we use from our cities and the message we want to give. But in Jyväskylä, we also want to cherish and take advantage of the darkness and maybe use it as a tool for visitors and tourism, and also to bring people together in city centers and areas also when it's dark. And we have a lot of darkness, as you can imagine. So I work for a project called City of Light, and it's coordinated by the city. We are under the departure of green areas and streets. So we deal a lot with urban lighting, also street lighting, parks, bridges, all that, but also with events and culture about light. We want to give guidance for any kind of projects, talk about light, just keep people informed about light and what we can do with that. Also help business, help city centers to keep up the appeal, because we know this problem of people going to the malls outside the city centers, and we want them to have a reason to come and enjoy the cities still. So this is just quickly our LUCI team. This is me in the center, and my team here, Kari and Jani, that some of you have met in LUCI events, and also our chair of City Board, Meri, and Satu, who is in charge of international relations. So at the moment, Jyväskylä is the president of LUCI Network, and we are very excited about these upcoming next 2 years. But here, we are here to talk about the Light Festival and this weird year of 2020. We've had Light Festival since 2003, and first it was very different. It used to be every second year, and it was a tool of communication about light. There was very important workshops and test lightings going on around the city. So we wanted to create like a festival around these temporary installations. So invite people and decision makers to see what architectural lighting can be and what we can achieve in the city, because we had very fresh lighting master plan in 2000, and these were the first steps of how we are going to show people what it means to create urban lighting and what kind of impacts it will have. So this was the start, and then when people started to realize, and all the permanent lightings and illuminations became annual and very like the basic structure of what we do, then the Light Festival became a bit more artistic, very family oriented, like for the whole family. It was very fun. We have a lot of performing arts also included, and the whole festival is done with the community together. So we have the church, we have university, we have creative schools and institutions making their part. So also the whole festival nowadays, it's done together with citizens and partners. We also have a professional seminar every year. So we always introduce our new permanent illuminated sites that we do during the year, or some of our partners do. So this year we had a webinar, and that was really a success. But I will tell about this a bit later. So here you can see the visitors during last year. So I think 16 was a big year for us, because you can see the bunnies on the left. That was 2016, and that was huge back then, having 60,000 visitors. And since that, it's been growing and growing every year. And of course, we were waiting so much for this year and had so many good plans, but then things happened. So here is a few pictures from last few years. You can see there's a lot of different scale, a different type of installations, and different type of arts. And it just appeals everybody, every kind of age groups and families and visitors from all around the Finland, but also we've had a lot of international visitors. So this year, what happened? Normally our light festival is at the end of September, and we had the dates already set up, of course, and we had the open call for artists at the beginning of the year, like we always do. And during the spring, we already decided some of the installations, started having negotiations with the artists, and then COVID happened in the spring, and we had to put everything in hold, which was it's very tricky for us, but also we have to understand it's tricky for all the artists, because they are also waiting what's happening with their business and their life and plans. So during the spring and already, in June, also we were still waiting for more information of what's going to happen. Do we have to postpone or do we have to cancel? And we have to wait for political decisions from the upper level also. So in June, around midsummer or just before, we decided to postpone to November. And this felt like, okay, everything is going to be over by then. It feels like really far away in the future, and we just make new plans for those dates. And then you know what happened after that, the second wave, and the whole August, September was just a disaster, and then eventually the whole thing was cancelled. So there was, during the year, it was a lot of uncertainty and waiting for officials and waiting for information, also holding back negotiations, which is very frustrating for everybody. And it's very, you know how that is. But instead, we came up with something, and we tried to find the positive sides. So like I mentioned, the seminar changed to webinar, and it was the first time we did the live Teams event, and it was very successful. We had a lot of people online and also recorded the whole thing and shared on YouTube, and it's been viewed for many times. So I think that was very good for us. It reached many people, and it's still available only in Finnish. I'm sorry, but it's a good way, and it was a good learning point for us. Also, we decided to have some installations around the city also, and we call it like Joy of Light. Let's give people something they can enjoy during these times. But it's not, it's for a longer period, and you can go there on your own. It's in a public area. You can just walk by, and they are there for 2 weeks or 2 months. So it means like it will be safe. You can go with your own family, and you can stay away from the crowds. So this is something we were really happy that we were able to do, like give just people some joy with light. That means like Christmas lighting, few light art pieces, and just allow people to go outside and be active, even if it's these difficult times and it's dark. We also had a mobile app called the City of Light in Finnish. And this is something we want to encourage people to go out and just look around our permanent illuminations that we have a lot. We have over 100 permanent sites that you can go and explore. And this was perfect year to remind people that we have a lot of nice architectural lighting. We have public light art. So just download the app and go out and enjoy your city and maybe see it in a new light kind of way. Also, we shared a lot of feelings and contact and memories from previous years on social media and just talked about people. And we came to notice that the whole festival was very missed. Like, people take it for granted that it comes every year. And when this happened, we got a lot of positive messages saying that we really missed this event, and now we know how important it is for the city and for everybody. So this is also something we learned. And also, like I said, we maybe did some work that just didn't lead anywhere, but it will give us a lot of plans and contacts and ideas for next year. We've been in contact, my colleague Jani, especially with a lot of artists, and maybe some of these ideas we can use later next year when things go hopefully back to normal. These are a few pictures from our Joy of Light. So we did like test lighting for the city, one of the churches, and then a piece of art in the shopping mall, the Christmas lighting and all that. So people can just go around and enjoy it. Thank you. Please follow on social media and
wonderful.
Let's stay in touch.
Great. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you so much. As we can see, cities are really trying in the best ways that they can to bring light to the people and to their citizens. So it's wonderful to see what's happening in Jyväskylä and in Lyon. We see similar things. So now we'll keep, there's a little question around artists that I think might be interesting to talk about in the end. I know that Lyon can talk about that too, and Elisa will come back to that as well, about how to keep artists involved in the future, how you dealt with that this year. So we're looking forward to talking about that at the end of the session. In the meantime, we will have Kaat. And so now I am pleased to introduce you to Kaat Heirbrant from Ghent, who will talk about her light festival that was supposed to happen in January next year, and we'll hear about where it actually is. She's going to share a lot about scenario planning that I think will inspire other festivals of how to think about their festivals in these times. So Noe is going to share your presentation, so you can just say next when you want us to go over to the next slide.
I'll be saying a lot of next because I have a lot of images.
Thank you.
Never mind, if it doesn't sound that polite. All right, the Ghent Light Festival, you can do next already. It started out in 2011 from the master plan for public lighting. That was our focus point. We actually wanted to emphasize the lighting of the city itself. This next slide. And it started out as a small event, but grew enormously in visitor numbers. And the last edition was in 2011. For those of you who don't know this, we don't have an annual event. But in 2018, we had 835,000 visitors. We always wondered where they all came from and who our audience was, because as an event, it's always interesting to know who is visiting your festival. If you go to the next slide, we did some research that year to see where our visitors came from. Of course, a lot of local visitors, national visitors, Belgians, and then our neighboring countries as well. So Ghent's a city of approximately 250,000 inhabitants and more than triple the amount of light festival visitors. This brings a lot of issues for the organization, mobility and traffic for visitors as for residents. Crowd control, crowd management are all things to be tackled with because there are so many people. It's a historical city where sometimes streets are narrow, cobbled. You have to send a lot of people through. This brings a lot of issues which we had to tackle and which led us to have some epic fails. I could share our successes, but I'd rather share some fails as well because that's where we learned from on how we do. I've got some pictures for you. If you go to the next slides, you can skip through the next 3 slides. You can see a lot of people in quite narrow streets. We had to change directions, create bypasses. We have a security manual that now counts around 320 pages. where everything is written down, every possible option for anything that could go wrong. And we're always wondering why this success and why is this light festival so popular to all sorts of audiences? Because we know where they come from, but it's young, old, never mind what cultural or religious background people have. It's accessible to everyone. It's a very simple language to read, actually. And people don't have any boundaries on visiting a light festival. It's free, it's open in the streets. You just step out of your door and you can see things that wonder or surprise you. You can skip another slide. And we started thinking, what is this about this festival that makes it so popular? And it's first of all, it's the individual experience. In 2018, we had the Moon, it's called, the art piece from Luc, a UK artist, and every single visitor wanted a selfie with this moon hanging in Ghent streets. But it's not only this me experience, the individual experience, it's also the we experience. People don't mind the crowds, even though it's very busy, there's a lot of people, they're part of something. It's the experience they want to be part of. It's a piece a lot of people know. It has been in a lot of light festivals, but it actually brings back this me and we. It brings together the me and we experience. Everyone wanted to be part of that crowd, be underneath the cloud, and pull that single string. That is what gets people together. But of course, those 835,000 visitors in COVID times are completely impossible. And since it's free, since it's on public domain, it's in the streets, you can't ban people from your city. If you go to the next slide. So we've been thinking a lot about how can we manage this? What do we do? Do we span the festival in time? Do we put less artworks? We're still going to come, and we wouldn't want to create that kind of risk. And the nice thing about starting to think about what we could do with the festival is that you start thinking out of the box as well, and you start finding creative ideas on how to deal with your festival, because we wanted to maintain this whole me and we experience, individual thing, and the being part of this whole of this experience. So we came up with a plan where everything in Belgium now that could happen during summer. We had there were less strict rules, so there were small things that could be organized. It was, you had to reserve a time slot, and there was a limited number of people allowed. So we thought we could do that with the festival as well. So we looked for 6 outdoor sites which were big enough to host a lot of people, within time slots, with a reserved ticket beforehand, and we extended it in time as well. In space, the 6 sites were spread throughout the city. There was an in and out, and you could see 5 or 6 artworks per site. So people would also have this light festival experience. What is so typical about our festival is that it's a mix of large-scale installations, video mapping, smaller poetic work, local emerging talent, international names, and it all goes through this route with a nice mixture in between the different things you see. So we wanted to create the same experience on 6 different sites, where not everyone would have to see the 6 sites. Lots of people would want to see them, but you could also have a light festival feeling by seeing one of the sites. So we actually created 6 small festivals during a longer period of time, except usually our festival lasts 5 days, but we extended it to 12 days so that we could spread the crowds even more. which meant if we would count back from the 800,000 visitors we had in 18, it would only be 1/5, even with the extended period, even with the large sites, it would be 1/5 to a quarter of that amount of visitors. Whilst we always agreed on the beautiful thing about this festival is that it takes away all boundaries and that it's accessible for everyone. But even reserving a time slot, even my own mom isn't digitally agile enough to book a time slot online. But she has family or friends who could help her. But there's a lot of people, difficult to reach target groups that would be excluded in this way from the festival. So we set up all sorts of guidelines and all sorts of contact persons to be able to reach also those target groups, because for us it was so important that it was accessible for all. We would go more local than our usual international public we have as well, so it would be more for Ghent-based residents. So that was a plan for January 21, which would be our 10th anniversary as well of the festival. But then, of course, we go to the next slides. As we've heard here, among every festival, they were all cancelled. The good thing about not being an annual festival, we found an upside to that, is that we don't have to cancel, we can postpone. So we're looking now, so even the COVID-proof version we've created with the time slots, with the different sites, isn't possible anymore with these strict measures there are. So we've decided a couple of weeks ago, even afterwards I said yes to doing this presentation, we've decided to cancel, or no, not cancel, postpone that version of the festival as well. The big question is, what's next? A lot is prohibited in Belgium. There's very strict COVID measures. There's small things that are happening. People get very creative. We've had, from the city, we've had messages of hope being projected onto large buildings. Simple messages: keep on dreaming, keep on hoping, keep on dancing, keep on smiling. The university projected "Corona sucks" on the biggest university building. Stay strong, students. We have this, the cultural sector in Ghent united them and made this helpline you can call. You can simply make a phone call if you're in need due to COVID, and you can call them up and they'll help you in some way. There's dancers doing a little dance at your front door. There's poetry being read. There's artists making drawings on your window. So all the inhabitants can just make a simple phone call and have a small, warm message of hope from a Ghent-based artist. What will we do? We're waiting now until the restrictions are being lifted or are being lifted a bit to see what we can do. The big light festival as such will postpone. We don't know to when. We could postpone to January 22 because we wouldn't have a festival normally. We could also postpone to autumn this year. We're still talking about that with political side, with security services, with our own organization, looking to see what is the best way. So I can't tell you very much about that yet. What we do believe is that we want to stay true to some of our ideas, while we also have the feeling that we've come up with a lot of creativity in organizing this new version of the festival. So we do want to keep some of those things in mind, but we also want to stay true to what the festival for us is meant to be. And if you go to the next slide, these are some of the next 4 slides are some of our projects. we've done in the past and which we want to keep on doing. This is a project in 2012 where we asked residents to bring their nightlights together. And if you see the message below says, Hier ligt Ghent. It's in Dutch, but it's a pun. To lay and to lie are the same word in Ghent. It's written different. So here lies Ghent, or here lights Ghent. So you could see that message with all the residents' nightlights. This was a project from high school students who transformed the urban furniture. We gave those big signs, but usually have publicity on them, and we gave them to them, and they could make an art piece of it. The next slide is also, it's a collaboration between a technical university and an art school, and they collaborated on creating pieces for the festival, where the art students learned that there's also a technical part to big ideas and dreams, and the technical students learned how to work for someone creating an idea or a vision, but then putting it into real life. The other next slide is a collaboration with the Ghent University. We do a lot of research on light and science. There's all sorts of experimentations which you can see during the festival, but in different domains. There's physics department, also the astronomy department, even biology is there. So every aspect of light is being showcased together with the university students. There's a lot of things we want to keep on doing, especially fun shit. And we're looking for all different means. And what has helped us in these difficult times is to be able to think outside of the box and approach the festival in a completely different way. And what will follow, I have some ideas. We're discussing a lot of options, but we'll definitely have a festival soon. So we're postponing and not canceling.
Thank you so much, Kaat. Really great to hear about the different scenarios that you had planned, and you made some of us believe that was the true plan because people were getting their tickets ready for Ghent. So, but I think, of course, for everyone, it's good to hear what some options are, because next year we still don't know what things will look like. So these scenarios might be what has to be put in place, even if it's in 6 months from now or 9 months from now. So some really good ideas, I think, that can inspire other festivals. So thank you so much. And I think that last slide, do fun shit. Let's make sure we continue doing that too. So we're quickly going to go over to the last festival, and then we'll have a discussion with everyone. And I want to make sure we can answer some of the questions that are here in the chat, because we've got a lot of interesting questions. I think everyone wants to know so much about this. So we'll head on over to Eindhoven to hear about GLOW, and then we will talk all together. Go ahead, Ronald. And thank you.
Yes, hello. Just a pity that I'm not in Lyon, but I put my own light festival here. So I'm a little Lyon.
Wonderful.
I think I miss it really. I mean, it's beautiful to walk to the cities of the streets of Lyon, and I will miss all the people there watching to the screen. Okay, I will start because I'm always talking too long. People said, yeah, GLOW this year. Of course, we had already a plan in March, and then the whole COVID start. And what we did, we stopped 2 months. We said we stopped with all our plans, and we just looking back to the roots. What is the story we have to tell? And in that moment, we talked with artists, with the government, with the people. Actually, talking. A lot of communications. We did some tests with light, and then we did a festival in autumn at the same time as GLOW, but COVID proof. Even at the summer, when everybody says it is safe, we keep on the road, just do something what is COVID proof. And the other thing was, there were 3 things. It should be COVID proof. The other thing is it should something touch in our hearts. So if it's not touching in the heart, we wouldn't do it. That's what everyone said, that something is touching in our heart. And the third thing is it should be it should be telling a story about light. So then we came of a famous quote from Gerard Philips: "Light is life, light is joy, and light is festivity." And then we said, okay, our story is actually to tell light is life, and I think in all points that's big true in this period. And actually, there was a fourth one. We don't talk about Corona in the whole narrative we have. So we put a festival for the whole city, but don't talk about Corona. Everyone can put his own grief, his own joy into the lights. That's all. That was the plan. And the next slide. So the story we told, and that sounds simple, connecting the dots. We would like to connect people, but what would happen is actually that form and story were going parallel. They were parallel. So we didn't have a story, we didn't have a form, and we asked artists to make some experience. We experimented with laser, we experimented with big beans. We already know it should be something on the roofs. And then one artist, Ivo Schoops, he said, "Can I try?" He's in the crowd now. So when you have extra questions to the artist, please ask him. And then he said, "Can I try some very little thing?" And he put a little balloon on a rooftop. And everyone saw it, and we were touched by it. The moving of a red balloon in the wind. And it was seen about 2 kilometers far away. Oh yeah, so this is too big. Okay, so the red balloon, and then we thought, okay, we put a city complete with 1,000 red balloons, and we make the whole sky blue. And of course, there's one person, he's from Finland, of course. We call it already Kari Blue. And so we asked him to do some experiments with blue on city roofs. And maybe go back to this one, but we have to go to the next. So, and then something happened actually. As Glow, we have to say what Kaat already said, the crowd of people. So we were in a transition, and we thought this year with 2 routes. But in that point of view, Corona was pushing us as a boost to new areas. So we make this, we know already we will have 1,000 balloons, we have some blue, and then we made this little drawing of like flowers, putting on the map of Eindhoven blue spots, and all these blue spots come together to one sky. And in this blue sky, there were drifting on the wind little red balloons. They are completely secular, but it was a no-go if they weren't secular. So the latex of the balloons will be used next year in a new art piece. So we already did that. And of course, the lights in the balloons will also recircled. So then we have these places in Eindhoven, and then very important is in the next. Okay, that's good. Next slide is that. We stopped with a route. We couldn't have, sorry, you have to go back. Sorry, Noel. I was so quick. So we said there's no route. And I think that can be maintained in the next future, to have no route, to have peace. There's one piece, and there are 2 artists, and we have 3 days. And we didn't mention the days. We didn't say when it starts and when it will be end. That was very important. And of course, everyone knows these artists. If you don't know, I think they are very great. We work with these artists, and of course we talk with other artists, but we work with Kari and with Ivo because they already have a history with Glow, and I believe in ensemble work, like a theater group. To have in your ensemble several artists. Of course, you have to have new artists in the group, and artists were getting in and out. This is very important. But when you have this, artists can feel safe to go experiment and make new things. And I think it is very important to see the public space more as a place where an artist have to find new ways to make new things. I believe really to not in putting a light into a public space only, but only see what's the history about the light with the public space. So every city is different, so every light festival is different, even when you do when you ask Kaya and Ivo, put it in our city, you have a complete different piece of art. I think that's very important. And so what is very important now in Eindhoven, that we say the city makes glow. We talked with the government, we talked with artists, we talked with inhabitants. Everyone is making actually glow. Next slide, and you will see it in this. And this will be a rule for us also in the next year. To put up 1,000 balloons in the streets, we have to involve a lot of participants and volunteers and not volunteers. The army was a volunteer in this case. And you have to ask people to participate in the whole piece. And I think when you do that, something very beautiful happened, that the light, and I think I come back to this again, I mean, when people put a light somewhere at a fenêtre, it's called venster, I don't know the English word, at your window, then you are part of the whole artwork. So I think all the little lights in Lyon also are artwork. I sometimes thought, and that's maybe a thing to think about, the lots of crowds, the biggest immersive light piece in light festivals is the crowd. When everyone has one light in his hand and would walk with that, you have a light piece. And I think just thinking, and that's the great thing about this period. You can think a lot about ways we never did have gone. And what happened actually when we make the whole city blue and all the balloons, everyone has his own view of what he or she or group is seeing, and they take pictures and they make stories. And I didn't have a slide with all the stories of people, but it was heartwarming what people said. I even hear a story about someone said, "My father's sitting 3 nights in the garden. I hope you don't have a cold." That kind of stories. And it was great. People really missed light and make up their mind. And when you have this big piece, you have the freedom to make your own decisions. And that's very important. These decisions make also the piece. I was talking with Kari after the festival, and we actually don't know when the art piece is starting. It's starting already in March, when we started talking with everyone, and ended somewhere now when people are posting their photos. So the making light in a public space is changing. It's moving away from a museum forms. And it's really interesting that in a public space, you are free to make your own decisions. What I see, what I am seeing now, and what's my decision to take the picture or take my story and put it into the world. And this will be the important thing for the next year, Glow. Share the choices. So what we make is actually sharing choices from people seeing the pieces of art. When you share your choice, it's going into the world, and then it's the art actually to make with artists this kind of works that you can make your decisions. So we are guiding actually the public to their choices. But on the other hand, the choices of the public could make also the art piece. So these are the questions we are now talking about. And there are very interesting studies. There's now Philip Ross is doing a study with people make their own light in parks, in streets. And how we can make that, which forms are working so that people can share their choices and don't get to be a chaos. So this balance between chaos and new frontiers and keep it safe. It's all art piece that you can feel that. So that's, I think, to develop for the next year. Yeah, this one choice of one summer who did. So this year, Glow, I just make a little resume. It's starting very small with a balloon, and I can say you, even, of course, the child is very good, but even everyone with a balloon, it works. It works directly into your heart. I mean, oh, it's overflowing. It's a light show. It's nice. Okay, and this is actually the work of Kari seen far away, and it is like it's great. It's also a balloon, and I think it's also good to have this difference from very small to very big. And in that, people were going outside of Eindhoven to see this picture again. And when you were inside, you saw more the picture in the beginning, seeing a Christ standing there. And of course, we did the Bensky trick to put a balloon on the Christ. That's also important to relativering. What's the English word? It's incredible. You can talk with someone when you speak on the screen. So anyway, and this is from outer space. So we have from the little balloon to the blue from outside the city, and we have now a configuration from outer space. This took me from outer space. And I put this on this because I think next year, talking about next year, when you go with the speed of light, this is only, I think, a little short of time going from outer space to Eindhoven. And this will the theme for next year, time. We will go to tell about stories about time, changing of time as light. So actually we first thought 300 million meters per second. But this is what we now are thinking about, and we will start again talking a lot with other people, and we think, well, what's the impact of time on people? I mean, everyone is sitting now in a time bubble. I mean, we have the luxury, I think, and also I don't want to say that it's a great times, of course not, but we feel time in a different way, and I think this will be the theme for next year. And so we're starting again next year by telling stories. And I heard already the question, how can I put my own light work in Eindhoven? What I already said, we work with ensembles, with people we know, and we look a lot, but we don't will have 30 pieces again. It will be, what I'm thinking about, it was very interesting what Kaat also said, to have different spots in the area, make open areas, and actually then you can handle far more public because you can open it and make people their own decisions into where they were going. So yeah, this was my last slide. Right. Next year already time, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy, for making the presentation.
Of course. Thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing about GLOW. It sounds like some people in the audience actually got to see that from their windows. So it sounds like it was magical and really great to still keep that light in the hearts of the people. I also heard some key words that we heard also in the beginning of the presentations with Lyon, where Lyon was, how did they keep the identity of the Fête des Lumières with a cancelled fête? And so they shared with us through the Lumignon, and even you all the way in Eindhoven, you're holding that Lumignon, that candle, and also the projection that will happen tonight. I want to go back to some of the questions from earlier quickly too about the artists, because in these transformations of light festivals, what happens to the artists? There in GLOW, you had one artist or two involved. Elisa, you have a few artists involved. I'm curious from Lyon if you can tell us how you supported artists, how you continue to support artists this year and through next year.
Yeah, for sure. We know it is a dramatic situation for the sector, and we try to be as much present as we can. What you have to understand is this year was particularly intense in Lyon in terms of changes. First of all, before the COVID was also an election year, so our production planning was postponed at the very beginning, and then COVID forced us to work to adapt with different scenarios, as everybody, and then we had to cancel, so it was a lot of work and frustration to handle. But in the early times of COVID, we already thought about proposing a special performance, special projection in the tenders, in the context, if the context will not allow us to work normally. So, for example, that's the case of the Ferey projection tonight. Simple static projection to be allowed by the security authorities as a symbol of still being alive together. But we also had to adapt to new security possibilities, to welcome the public along the evolution of the health context. So changing site, working with prefect to find solution to welcome the public on small gauge, adapting the artistic and technical project with every teams in a very short time. That was a real challenge on every part of the job, for sure, production, technical and administrative parts. But what's left of it is one interesting thing. Even the difficult context, we had the chance to work together with understanding, respect, and all of it create kind of a solidarity working together. But also, Julien, maybe you want to add some words?
Yeah, actually this year we had a smaller festival because we should have around 25 artists for the Fête des Lumières, and of course for us it was important to manage them with money, because we know that it's difficult for everybody. We know that of course they were very proud to be selected for the Fête des Lumières, and very disappointed to not the possibility to not do something this year. So we tried to first to postpone many installations for next year. So of course it's another problem, because it's the issue for the other artists what we can do for next year, because we'll have just a few tenders. So it will be a problem for 2021, but it's also good for the artists because we could pay them. Actually, we could pay, since it's public tenders, we could pay expenses they had, and of course we pay also for the postponing of the installation, because it will cost more than if they have done the installation this year. So we try to have a very very nice politic for them, because we know that the time are very hard. We try to help them, to help the technical team also. But this year, next year, it will be, for us, it's a problem, because we know that it will be very hard for everybody. So actually, it's a little bit sad situation. And we try to find solutions for them, but it's difficult to find very good solution for everybody.
Thank you for that. But at least it's good to know that cities and festivals are still thinking about and trying to support their artists instead of just leaving them to be on their own. So I think that's great that you're still trying that. Elisa, did you think about? I know in our discussions this summer about artists, how did you handle this in postponing and canceling your event this year? And what are you thinking about for next year and these artists?
Yes, like I mentioned in my presentation, we always keep like the records of all the open calls we have. So we kind of agreed with them that we will continue all the negotiations next year, but we actually didn't do any contracts yet. So we were lucky that way. But like I mentioned, it's very sad for artists, because they are sort of left with nothing. But because there is nothing, there's no event, there's nothing we can do. But yeah, for this Joy of Light installations, we had few connections from previous years. And actually one of the art pieces that will be there until January is a part 2 for a piece we saw in our festival last year. So it was an artist we already familiar with, and he was offering like a next extended edition for the piece, and it's there until January. One group is very long time partner for us. So when we came up with this Joy of idea for the Christmas time and for a longer period, we knew that they will be able to deliver very quickly, and they are very independent, working very on their own, and they're a very easy team. So we were able to have 2 installations from them. But yeah, I think the only thing we can do is to just preserve all the contacts and all the ideas for next year, and then continue when things go back to normal.
Yeah. if we can, the new normal, I guess, which
the new normal.
Know what it will be like, but we're planning for it. Great. Well, I think that there are so many questions that we should hopefully stick around a little bit longer if the speakers are willing to, and if everyone in the audience can and wants to hold tight a little bit longer. Throughout some of the questions, I'm feeling something around, you know, what's next and how are festivals going to change and adapt. I've heard the word local. I've heard the word smaller. What are you, all four of you, thinking about in these next editions of, you know, not just for COVID, but for how the world is changing, climate change and all of that? How might you adapt in these ways? Let's see, maybe, Lyon, do you have something you want to add? Or
Yes, for sure. We come at a time, lot of input are crossing together. For example, in Lyon, we have a real issue with too many people on the streets and security perimeter because of the attacks. And coming in a time with COVID, we need to work differently, but also like it's maybe politically mature with the Green political party at the head of the Lyon city now. All this together made us think to rework the size and of the festival to propose something maybe smaller at some time, or maybe more close to the citizen. Can be close during the festival in the center of the city, but also going back in the neighborhood. Also maybe see the inhabitants, not especially during the festival, but in the long term, the whole year, doing little things around. To work maybe also with different kind of actors to make the programming of the festival more rich, maybe to work with the institution, the cultural institution in Lyon, and to open, to be more connected and fresh, connected to the society. I think it's also the vision of Julien that come this year with a bright open view on the festival, and that's good.
But we have also a lot of explanation from the tourists, from many things, because Lyon is so big. The Lyon Festival is so big that we have also it's complicated for us also to move on for the festival, because of course the political party, they want to change, but I think that our sponsors and many people are waiting for a big festival. So we will change it. Maybe not next year, maybe it will take 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but we have the goal to change it and to have something maybe more artistic, a little bit smaller, and closer to the inhabitants.
I think if I can add to that, it's what we're doing. It's what I told as well. We want to keep on putting a lot of energy in these collaborations. Students are a very important target. We've worked with for a very long time. Same thing with the university. But we also have our cultural institutions being part of the festival, and it gives very interesting results in what they present as well. We had one of the most beautiful examples I can give is that we've worked with a youth theater company who also have a theater hall, like a venue, and they've the whole streets next to their venue, they cover it with little light bulbs where all the kids participating in the youth theater and schools around it could write down their wishes. And all these light bulbs were hung up, and with the kids playing theater in the hall, they created this almost performing arts piece. The kids were telling a story, having a conversation, and every time something about light or one of those wishes came up in the conversation, the lights as a ceiling started flickering. And the funny thing about it was all in Dutch, but I had an international group which I was guiding through the festival, and every single one of them, not understanding Dutch, remained silent for the piece and were like completely into it, because it had created an atmosphere of performing arts that hung on to people in some way. So we want to keep those. We have lots of we have museums involved as well. We have fine arts institutions. whatever. And we also want to involve the public, get them, the inhabitants. We were working on a couple of really nice projects together with schools, like high schools and retirement homes for old people. We're collaborating on light art projects. They're not cancelled, they're postponed as well. So I'm answering the previous question as well. We're postponing, and we're having a lot of projects just in the next festival. But I think it's very important to have, there's this undercurrent somehow in your city, and there's so much creative potential there. Why put a layer on top of the city if you can have it come from your city as well?
Absolutely. Yep, we'll bring you back to the local. I think, Elisa, you had your hand up, and then we'll go over to Ronald, or was that a hand, Elisa?
Thanks. It was a hand. So yes, I just wanted to add that I really agree with the previous speakers, because we all know the cities, the streets have the limits, and just going bigger and bigger every year, it's impossible. But then you feel like you have to have the new wow effect every year, just go it more like lunatic eventually, if you know what I mean. So I think the whole discussion of toning down a little, maybe having more local identity, or at least some kind of identity. They are just touring around the world. They are sent from city to city and just placed on the square, and there is your festival. So I think we need all of that, but also the local cooperation, a lot involvement from the people, but also think like, how can you stand out from this big selection of light festivals? Like Lyon, you have your Lumières, or Amsterdam has the canals, or whatever is your city branding. You have to find that, because otherwise it's just, like Kaat said, it's just a layer of festival placed on top of the city and then brought somewhere else. And I think at least in Finland, we have a lot of nice festivals, and we are, as cities, I know we are all thinking about how to find our own identity. And I think it comes from the history, it comes from your own locations, your own architecture, and your own local artists and people.
I think it's important to see what the natural behavior of people is. I mean, and then I come back to the candlelights of Lyon, of course. There's an internal behavior to put lights on your window and to celebrate this light. I'm not really, of course, I have to defend the enormous light we make at Glow. It was not actually very small. It's maybe lunatic in that partition, but I think that was a real well-made decision to put the sky in light. We have the possibilities on that. The blue light was far more lesser than a full moon. We couldn't do it in a full moon setting. And I stayed up 2 nights to see if the birds were waking up. They weren't waking up anyway. And the full moon, they're always waking up somewhere. So we have to watch out. Of course, I think the balance in environment is very important. But we have also the possibility to make immersive lights, and we have to think about that, because then I come back to the tradition of people putting their lights on in their window. That's also immersive, and we are now with LED light. We are democratized or use of light, and I think as light festivals and artists, we should be guidance in the use of a lot of lights. Because one example, always when I'm speaking to students, they phone to Alibaba and they sell a lot of lights. They put it on a big huge pile of lights. And 10 years ago that was a piece of art, but nowadays not anymore. So I think there is a responsibility, but it's not bad to think from immersive to small and to big. I mean, that can work. I mean, and even is in transition. I know we also make this transition, but we don't think we go especially smaller. Even can more bigger, but bigger can also mean less light. I mean, bigger could also be very dark on one spot of light. I mean, you have to communicate your story in that. So that's about the future.
I actually want to react on two things I saw in the chat box from Asia about the wow factor that brings people and the power of art. What that is in between all the wows. And the story I've been hearing and been telling myself is that we should go more local, involve inhabitants, don't need the huge visitor amount, huge amounts of visitors or huge crowds. Yes, that's all correct. But then again, something I said in my presentation as well, there are so many people that would love to see those lights and that come out of their houses, and you're not diminishing thresholds, you're taking away any thresholds to see art in public space. And yes, there has to be some wow, and that's the mixture you need, I think, to attract people that would normally never set foot in a museum, but do come to a light festival because they're coming for that big video mapping thing they saw on a large square. But at the same time, they're discovering artists that would usually only exhibit in museums or art students that come up with new ideas or participatory projects. So I think it's quite important to reach that kind of audience as well. And that mainly means that you're aiming for quite a big audience. Believe me, I'm not asking for those 800,000 visitors. I would be happy with at least half of them, even less. But I think it's also kind of something we are not obliged, but it's somewhere our role to have this broad audience getting acquainted with art in public space or light art in public space. So it's a balance that sometimes tends to go a bit of a different way, and you have to keep that balance even between believing in creating your own local festival and then again doing something for your audience. So, which doesn't mean I'm championing to get more visitors, not at all. On the contrary, but it's something that's it's hard to put your finger on where it shifts.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, I think that we're going to have to end here, although I think we could continue on for hours with all of these fascinating topics and questions that are coming in. So what comes out of this is that there are many challenges ahead, and we are looking forward to seeing how all of these light festivals are thinking creatively about how they're going to transform themselves, thinking about the local, the identity, but also maintaining that wow factor. So thank you again to all our speakers for being here and to everyone in the audience. I'm going to hand it over to Mark for a little announcement now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much to all of you. I mean, one of the things we have in these virtual events is clapping. I don't know, in football you have some sounds and things you can put to create the ambiance, but I'd just like to clap, to say how thankful I am to all of you.
We can try.
I think this session was truly fantastic. Also the livelihood of the chat is just incredible, and some real true big discussions here. And I think thank you also for all of you to have joined this session in quite strong numbers. There's a strong inspiration, I think, about the way ahead for light festivals, not only as we recover from COVID, but also for the important, I think, evolutions, in general for the light festivals. And what I've heard is, how do we keep on perhaps staying true to traditions, to the identity of the city, to the identity of a community, to artists also, to collaborations and partnerships. I've also heard, of course, thinking out of the box, I think is important, thinking differently. And I would really like to highlight again the do fun shit, because that's for sure. And let's do that together. I also need to stop here because there's so much to say. And LUCI welcomes all of you to continue, this conversation in our events. in the Lyon Light Festival Forum, which is held every year, but also during the rest of the year. We have working groups, we have cooperation projects, a lot of things that just welcomes all of you for a lot of exchanges.